Thank you, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Ordinary Council meeting for the Borough of Queenscliff. Just to let you know, we have had a couple of technical issues, so we do apologise for the late start to tonight's meeting. Firstly, Council would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of these lands, waters and skies, the Wadawurrung people. We acknowledge and respect their continuing connections to their lands, waters, skies, culture, and the contribution they make to the life and the spirit of our community. We pay respect to their past and present elders and their emerging leaders, and extend this respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Thank you very much. As I said, we have an apology, Mr. CEO. We have an apology from Councillor Susan Salter.
Yes.
And also, just so people know, we do have a technical issue with Councillor Grigau, who's trying to connect from New South Wales and having some problems getting through, but hopefully he'll be able to join us shortly. Apologies. Councillors, do we have any pecuniary interest or conflicts of interest, councillors? No? No, thank you. Mr. CEO, officers, any conflicts of interest?
No, Mr. Mayor. No.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Item 4, leave of absence of councillors, which there are nil. Public question status update. At the ordinary council meeting of council on the 15th December, one public question was taken on notice. A response was sent on the 15th of February 2022, and that appears in Appendix 6. No other public questions are outstanding. Public questions. Mr. CEO, I have received 3 public questions, so I'll read those out now. The first public question number 1 is from Denise Doolan to Mayor Ross. At last, you're putting some colour and care into our roundabouts. Congratulations. As new residents to this community, we also hope it will continue with the first roundabout on entry to Queenscliff opposite the caravan park and others in the borough. Thank you very much, Denise. The response, thank you for your input, Denise. We will pass on your request to the Department of Transport, who manages that roundabout that you're referring to. So as it alludes to, the roundabout is not managed by council, but we certainly will make sure that that's passed on to the Department of Transport. Public question number 2 is from the Point Lonsdale Civic Association regarding PLMDP and comments made at the PLCA AGM in January. What is the current status? When will the new precinct plan be released? And for that matter, what works commence and what about the timelines? The response, no new precinct plans are proposed for the Point Lonsdale Marine and Defence Precinct. Council is working towards grants deliverables provided by Council by the Department of Jobs, Precincts and Regions, which includes refurbishment of the P1 huts, landscaping, signage and a celebration of the Wadawurrung heritage on site. Options for works on the P1 huts will be discussed with the project control group at an upcoming meeting. Based on feedback, officers will develop material to enable the permit application process for the huts to commence. This will include discussions with Heritage Victoria, the Wadawurrung and Marine and Coastal Act consent. Upon obtaining all permits, Council will commence works. At this stage, timing for the commencement of the works will be dependent on the ability of state approval authorities to assess Council's applications. It is hoped that refurbishment of the huts can commence prior to the end of this financial year. Thanks again, as always, to the PLCA for your public question. Public question number 3 is from David Kenwood. At the PLCA annual general meeting, it was indicated by the Mayor that the Tourist Park Management Review would be presented at the February 2022 Council meeting. Given its importance to the community, can the Mayor indicate why the review has been delayed, what will be released to the community and when? Thank you, David. Council has reviewed a copy of the draft report from the consultant undertaking the work. Council is now working through the recommendations of the draft report. It is important councillors have a detailed understanding of the reports we put out for consultation. even completely independent reports like the draft tourist park management and operation review. Because this report contains a large number of complex recommendations, councillors have requested extra time to speak to officers and the consultant who prepared it to ensure we understand the impacts of its recommendations. We look forward to sharing this report with the public soon and hearing your feedback as part of the next stage of consultation. Thank you very much, David. Mr. C, there are the public questions. Thank you. Item 6, councillors, confirmation of the council minutes. 6.1, ordinary meeting of council. The recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council of the Borough of Queensland held on 15th of December 2021 as distributed be confirmed as an accurate record. So that's moved by Councillor Grout, second by Councillor Hewitt. Those in favour? Thank you very much. Item 7, record of informal meetings of councillors. The recommendation that the record of informal meetings of councillors as presented in adjunct to item 7 be noted. Someone would like to move that? Councillor Hewitt, thank you. And seconded Councillor Grout. In favour? Thank you. 7.1, amendment to the record of assembly held on 13th October 2021. The record of assembly for the planning review meeting held on 13th October 2021 has been updated to address some omissions. A copy of the record of the assembly is provided in Appendix 1. Council's recommendation that the amended record of the assembly as presented in Appendix 1 for the planning review meeting held on October 13, 2021 be noted. I get someone to move that recommendation. Councillor Grout, thank you. Councillor Hewitt, in favour? Thank you. Councillors, the notice on motion, we have no motions on notice outstanding. 8.2, no notices of motion were received. Councillors, next item, petitions and letters. So just one sec. In accordance with the Borough of Queensland's governance rules, a petition or joint letter presented to the council must lay on the table until the next ordinary meeting of council, and no motion other than to receive the petition or joint letter may be accepted by the chairperson unless the council agrees to deal with it earlier. So councillors, we have received 9.1.1 objection to the proposed fishing facilities at 1 Hesse Street, Queenscliff. File number QP090-100. As you can see, we have received a petition and addressed to the Mayor and councillors at the Borough of Queenscliff. While the while the borough's governance rules contain provisions regarding petition, this particular petition is addressing a live planning permit and during an amendment application. The petition is there for your note, the councillors. I will add it to the end. The petition was received before a decision had been made on application number 2020-071.1. This petition is properly classified as an objection under the Planning and Environment Act 1987. As such, must be received and actioned in accordance with the Act and not council's governance rules. Consequently, there is no decision of council to make at this time on this matter. The objection will be dealt with in the appropriate manner under the provisions of the Planning and Environment Act 1987. I will also add that councillors will be receiving a briefing on the proposed fish cleaning facilities on the 16th of March also. So thank you for all those who signed that petition. Councillors, item number 10 is the functions attended, and I'd just like to also acknowledge Councillor Griggar's joined us. Thank you, Councillor, and we apologise for the technical hiccups, but we're glad you can join us.
No, I apologise. I'm coming through by the phone. I'd like to say that I'm coming from Budawong, LGA of Shoalhaven, and been very accommodating to welcome me up here. glad I can join the council meeting tonight.
Excellent. Thank you and welcome. Thank you, Councillor Grigard. Item 10, councillors, functions attended. There is we've got 2 and a bit pages of functions attended over the last couple of months. Councillors, there is a recommendation there that the functions attended report be received. Can I get someone move that? Councillor Grant? You want to move that? Did you have a change?
Yeah, I'll move that with the following changes.
Certainly.
On the 14th of December, I attended the G21 Transport Pillar meeting. On the 2nd, on the 7th of January, I also attended the Point Lonsdale Community Association annual general meeting. And there's an adjustment needed. On the 2nd of February, the Our Coast Extended stakeholder meeting was moved actually to the next day, which was the 3rd of February 2022. So we should delete that line at the 2nd of February and just add my name on the 3rd of February meeting. I attended that with the CEO.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Grout. Any other amendments, councillors? If not, Councillor Grout has moved that motion. Can I get someone to second the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 11.1, the Chief Executive Officer's report. Over to you, Mr. CEO.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I might just lay it on the table and assume that it's been read, and happy to take some questions from the councillors after it's moved.
Okay. Councillor, get someone to move that we accept the report. Move Councillor Hewitt, seconded Councillor Grout. Those in favour? Oh, yep, thank you. And any questions in regard to the CEO's report for the CEO? No, Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the report, as always, Mr. CEO. Just if you wouldn't mind just elaborating a little bit more about the Q Hub costs, where we're at in terms of overrun and any other expected additional budget items for this particular build. Thanks.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so we have, in terms of overruns, we've expended the contingency sum, and you'll notice in the agenda this evening, we're seeking additional funds to cover some variations that are associated with the project. The overrun at the moment is in the vicinity of about 300,000 for the project, and that includes the contingency sum. About 180,000 of that is in latent conditions. So we had some contaminated soil on the site, and once we revealed the southern wall of the library, it was found not to be structurally sound. So that's taken a big hit. The rest of the variations and the overruns are a combination of the impacts of COVID, supply chain impacts, and the timing of the project. So, while we don't ever want overruns, at the moment the total overruns about 4.6 to 7% of the overall project budget, and taking advice from the QS that's not unexpected in the current climate.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Councillor Grab, your question for the CEO?
Not so much a question as a comment. I just wanted to take this opportunity, because it's in your report, Mr. CEO, to commend the planners for processing this 132 new applications, which is about 11 a month, which is around about 4 or 5 more than we would normally be processing, as I understand. And in that time, we've had 32 briefings, which is about 3 a month. Of which council actually called in 4 items during the calendar year, and the VCAT hearings is a big fat 0. which is means that we were pretty effective at mediation, I think, as well. I think one of the people who asked for a hearing withdrew their application. So congratulations, I think, to the planning department on those scores.
Thank you, Councillor Grau. Councillor Grigo, you've got a question in regard to the CEO report.
Yes, just enlightening. So you've got Mr. CEO, you've got changes regarding the Victorian state government plannings. But would you be able to enlighten us further regarding, because I think the delay on the Dell paper is been in the media. Could you enlighten us up on that? That affects our planning scheme.
How the Dell affects our planning scheme?
Yes, the delay. Yes.
Yeah. So if the state planning policy associated with the Dell is adopted, it gets incorporated into our planning scheme and reinforces and potentially provides some greater protections to some of the character issues, character considerations in the borough, and also in terms of how we relate to the region. Also, if it's enacted the way it's been written, would control the settlement boundaries, in that it wouldn't provide for any growth in town like Ocean Grove. And that has an indirect impact on us in terms of the facilities and the services and the beaches that we have and access to that. So Council's always supported the Dell, and we'll go through this process with the intent on continuing to support the strategic objectives of the Dell, and hopefully we're in a position later this year to incorporate the policy into our planning scheme. Johan, is there anything you wanted to add to that?
CEO, no, I think you've covered it pretty well. The only point or additional point I'd raise is that we've got a directions hearing with Planning Panels Victoria on the 11th of March, and they'll be outlining how best they're going to conduct, not how best, but how they're going to conduct the hearings if people do want to actually address the panel and have their views aired further than what their written submissions actually already outline.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Councillor.
One further regarding the planning schemes here on the in our council, with the changes to the Victorian Sex Workers Act. It was saying that will we be able to object to having brothels set up in the borough?
Yes, you and the community will have rights to make submissions to any application for a brothel in the borough. Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Even with the new change, even with the changes to the new law that just got passed through the state government in the upper house.
Yeah, look, I need to take that on notice, but the advice that I've received is that that they're not eliminating all the planning rights of the community, but they're certainly providing a pathway for those sorts of developments to be considered in certain areas. Yes.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other further questions for the CEO in regards to his report? If not, thank you very much. We have moved and seconded that one. Item 12, health and wellbeing, no report to consider. 13, environment, no reports to consider. Item 14, local economy. 14.1, event sponsorship application. We'll hand over to Manager Community, Shannon Maloney. Thank you, Shannon. We're in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, everybody. Tonight, councillors and the Mayor, I have two applications for your consideration for event sponsorship. We received an application from the Ballerine School of Art and the Ballerine Lighthouse Film Festival. I'll take the report and assessment as read, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Shannon. Some questions before we put a recommendation through. Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you. ask a couple of questions. So the weekend of free workshops, what hours will that be on, and will it be on both the days, Saturday and Sunday?
The application came in as Saturday, and it'll be a full day event, as well as then the posters and the activities will then be displayed ongoing in some selected cafes.
Right. And a follow-up question: where will the proceeds of the book go to?
It will go back to the business that is running the launch of the book. So the book is owned by the Ballarat School of Art, Lara Davies, business owner, and she is producing that book. And then the book is then the launch of the book is the event, and the request for funding for that event will be covering such as marketing costs for that workshop, as well as staffing costs to run the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Grigo, you have a question for Shannon Maloney? Yep. I think we may have lost him. He's frozen in time. Oh, sorry. Yep. You got frozen there for a second.
Yes. All right. So could you please, Shannon, could you please breakdown of the $5,000 requested for the grant, and also the what were the proposed numbers of people that they'll plan to provide for on the day?
That's in regards to the local event, the Ballarat School of Art, Councillor Grigal. The $5,000. So the $5,000. It's basically a breakdown of.
Correct. The Ballarat School of Art. Yes.
Yep.
Sure.
So sorry, Shannon. There's just a bit of a delay with Councillor Grigal coming through, so we do apologise.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No problem. There will be a creation of a marketing video. And the quote that the applicant has provided me was around $3,000. There is also some advertising in our local press. Approximate cost for that for 2 months is $900. Printing of some localized postcards to distribute around the communities, around $300. She's quoted me some signage for the windows of her shop, around $300. And then there's some staffing costs, which add up to around $400 or nearly $500 for the day. And some additional staff members to assist in selling the book.
Okay, thanks, Shannon. Councillor Grigal, did you have another question? No, he's gone sideways. Did you have another question, Councillor Grigal?
Oh no, I've lost it. I couldn't hear. Sorry.
Okay.
No, my internet connection's unstable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shannon, can I also? I just wanting to. No, do you know how many books that the art school is looking at producing?
Just bear with me one moment. I'll check my notes. $150.
150. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Hewitt, you have another question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And how many people do they think they'll get at the workshop?
They have not indicated, but they're hoping for a range between 30 and 50 people at the workshop over the day. It's hard. It's hard to kind of estimate. And at the time of application, she was a bit unsure of restrictions regarding COVID and the capacity that was involved.
Thank you.
So 30 to 50 for the free weekend workshop.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Councillors, any further questions? If not, so this comes under my portfolio. So I do have a recommendation and just a slight change with item number 1 to read that the council accepts the assessments as presented in this report and determine allocation of funding for the 2 applications presented as following. Event A, local event, the Ballarat School of Art launch event that council allocates $1,000 to the weekend of free workshops component of the application. And B, the minor event, Ballarat Lighthouse Film Festival, council allocates $5,000 and item 2 remains the same. So that's the recommendation. Do I have someone to second that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. Thank you very much. That's passed. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
So, councillors, we move on to item 15, Heritage Planning and Infrastructure. 15.1, the Planning Permit Activity Report. We'll hand over to Mr. Rajaratnam. Welcome, Johan.
Mr. Chair, Councillor, you're pretty familiar with the format of the Planning Permit Activity Report. Just some interesting figures. The current applications has gone down to 12 from 23 in December. However, the new applications received since the last report has gone from 8 in December to 20 in this month. Total number of active permits, however, are down 31 down to 23 this month. Council, the report is fairly straightforward in terms of its format. Officer's recommendation is the bottom of the page on 26. It's recommended that the planning permit activity report be received.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rajaratnam. Do I have a move that we accept the recommendation that the planning activity report be received? I move Councillor Grout. Seconded.
Yes.
Councillor Grugard, thank you.
Yeah.
All those in favour?
Yeah.
So move the report. Councillor Grout, your portfolio, any further questions?
Yes, can I further move that council receive briefings because of community interest in the following applications?
Yeah, certainly.
So there are three of them. 2021/123, which is number 40 Gellibrand Street in Queenscliff. There's 2021/125, which is 45 Learmonth Street in Queenscliff. And there's 2021/128, which is 75 King Street in Queenscliff.
Okay, so Councillor Grout, that's the received briefings on.
Yes.
Yep, thank you. So that's moved by Councillor Grout. Can I get someone to second that recommendation from Councillor Grout? Councillor Hewitt, thank you very much. All those in favour? Thank you. So moved. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Grout, and thank you, Johan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillors, item 16 is Governance and Finance. 16.1, Council Plan Quarterly Report as at 31st of December 2021. And I'll hand over now to the CEO, Mr. Gill. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, we're in a bit of an unusual situation where we don't have an annual plan for this year because we adopted the council plan in October, but we're in the process of preparing an annual plan for the next financial year. But in the meantime, we have an adopted council plan and we've begun work on a number of the intended actions within that. And so this is a report on the work that we have been undertaking, and I'm happy to take any questions about any of the actions that we're working on.
Yeah. Councillors, do we have any questions for the CEO? Councillor Hewitt?
Thank you for the report, Mr. CEO. I just wanted to get an idea about when we'll likely be able to receive a copy of the implementation plan for the SERP. Thanks.
Yeah, so the plan is to bring it to council briefing on the 23rd, sorry, 16th or 23rd of March, but in the next week or so. So 16th of March. Then obviously we'll take feedback from there. So we've been using the action tracker, which we've presented to the councillors in the past. So what we've been working on is really the right governance model and working through decision-making processes and how we might integrate the budgetary process with the consideration of SERP initiatives. So we're just about there. The hold up is me. The office has been doing well. I've been taking my time in the review of that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Grout, a question in regard to the quarterly report.
Yeah, a question to you, Mr. CEO, and thanks for the report. So there was an item on page 7 of the report. It's a note a $38,000 increase in costs associated with caravan park management and operational review. So at the time of printing this, there wasn't a precise cost available for that consultancy. Do you have advice at the moment about how much that consultancy has cost the borough?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. The report you're referring to, Councillor Grant, is actually the quarterly financial report, but we're happy to address your question now. 45,000 has been the total cost, and Shannon can correct me if I'm wrong, but 45,000 for report, that review.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the CEO in regard to the council quarterly, council plan quarterly report? No, can I get someone that we move that we accept the recommendation that council notes the quarterly report update from the 1st of October 2021 to 31st of December 2021. If I can get someone to move that one. Sorry, Councillor Grigau, was that a mover? Or? Yes, thank you. And seconded by Councillor Hewitt. Thank you very much, Councillor Hewitt. All those in favour? So moved. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. CEO. Item 16.2 is the 2021-22 quarterly financial report as at 31st December 2021. And welcome, Gihan. We're in your most capable hands, Gihan. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, councillors. And the purpose of this report is to provide an update on the financial performance for the first 6 months of this financial year. As mentioned on the page 45 of the agenda, the forecasted accumulated cash surplus for the financial year is 234,000, which is a 143,000 increase from the previous quarter forecast. The additional grant income we received from Better Boating in Victoria, savings in employee costs largely due to some temporary staff vacancies, savings due to cancellation of some events due to COVID restriction, and the savings associated with the new operating initiatives have contributed to the increase in the forecasted cash surplus for the year, despite reduction in some income projections for the year as detailed in the quarterly financial report. This forecasted cash surplus is after allocating additional funding amounting to 309,000 for the capital projects listed on the page 45 of the agenda. During the last 6 months, Council has invested 3.6 million in capital project against the forecast of 11.6 million for the year. We have included explanation for key variance against the first quarter forecast at Appendix 3A. Overall, as summarized on the page 46, year-end forecast results meet all financial sustainability indicators specified in the council plan. Further, councillors, in addition to the quarterly financial result, it is a requirement of the Act for officers to provide a mid-year update in relation to the local government performance reporting framework. As provided at the Appendix 3B, there are 24 qualitative measures to assess the soundness of the governance and the management framework of the council. So as we can see, the borough is expected to achieve all of those requirements by the year end. And further, there are 27 applicable qualitative measures to assess sustainable capacity, service performance, and financial performance of the council. Data is not available to report against 5 service performance, but again, as mentioned in the Appendix 3C, the borough is well within the expected range for all those reported indicators. Councillors, the recommendation is set out on page 43 and 44 of the agenda.
No. Thank you very much, Gihan. Councillors, do we have any questions for Gihan before we move the recommendation?
Yes, please.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Grigau.
Yeah, Gihan, could you please explain the cost increase or requirements for the ITC transformation? What was the reason for the increased costs, please?
Thank you, Councillor Gregor. There are two components which has contributed for that expected cost increase. One with our electronic record management system. When we were finalizing the initial project, we were looking at, we call it a SharePoint-based solution, but later when we went through the tender with another 3 councils, we realized we need another application top of that. So for a better management of our record. So that has resulted in an increase in the project cost. But there's another side, since it is a collaborative project, we got an opportunity to apply for grant. We have not factored in those grants into the budget yet, since it has not been confirmed. So though we increase the cost, definitely we expect a grant amount to really set off that increased cost of this ICT transformation project. The other component, the changes that we have been implementing in relation to moving on to the Office 365 based platform. And again, this cost escalation as a result of the change in the scope. So we went through, we engaged a consultant to do a roadmap to have Office 365 implemented. So that consultant has suggested some changes to the scope. So that has resulted in some cost escalation. But another approach that we have taken when it comes to the corporate system, we are going to even have the corporate system managed as a collaborative project with another 2 councils. So which has provided us another opportunity to go for a grant funding support. So when you consider that grant funding, what we feel the additional grant money that we would be able to secure will definitely cover this escalated cost of this project.
Thank you. But like when you originally signed off on this program, we were looking, we were briefed on the costs, and like we didn't expect such a cost overrunning, and like councillors just don't have an open checkbook to fund these things. Like we're fully supportive of upgrading our IT system, but we have to make sure that we live within our sort of funding or our cost delivery to our share ratepayers.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Grigor. Councillor Hewitt, you have a question for Gihan?
Yes, thank you, Gihan. Yet again, a great example of how you're so aptly managing the finances of the borough. So we're very glad to have you at the financial helm. Obviously, we've touched on some overruns, some obviously as discussed, changes to scope, and some obviously COVID-related or latent defect-related overruns, additional costs. It seems as though we are carrying over some projects, and I just wanted to touch on a presentation that you gave us a couple of weeks ago, just about our capital expenditure and budget versus actual, and over the last few years, and how there's been quite a difference between what we set out to spend in terms of capital projects and what we actually spend on those capital projects. And going into the new budget process, we just wanted to just revisit with you, what are our learnings for that, and how going forward are we able to tweak our processes so that what we set out to achieve in the budget in terms of capital outlay will actually be, what we spend. And so we deliver on the projects that we anticipate during that period. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Gihan,
one more question.
Sorry, Councillor Gihan, did you want to respond? I know it's quite a big question. You may not be able to answer it all.
Mr. Mayor, I think to do justice to the question, I think it's probably one that we take on notice and just talk through with the councillors, because it's a great question, but it's a multifaceted response, and there's it just needs a bit of time to go through it. So if councillors are comfortable, we might take that one on notice.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Yep. Councillor Grigor, you've got another question for Gihan?
Yes, just another question. So this additional funding allocation for these money for those items, have they already been expended, or what happens if we don't approve it?
Some of the expenditure items, yes, we have already incurred. So if you look at, there's a 26,000 for Commonwealth Road Safety Program, which we have already incurred because that project is completed. So apart from that, the other allocations we have not incurred yet. So that's what we forecast before the end of the current financial year. We may incur those additional funding allocations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillors, any other further questions for Gihan? If not, so we do have a recommendation on page 43 and 44. If I can get someone to move the recommendation, please. Moved by Councillor Grigau, seconded Councillor Grout. Thank you. All those in favour? So moved. Thank you very much. So we move to item 16.3, review of council policies. I think we're going to do a bit of a tag team with this one. So firstly, I'll ask the manager community, Shannon, to brief us on the first component of the community grants. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Today, the community grants policy is presented to you with some minor amendments, mainly around aligning it with the current council plan or the new council plan. There's some minor rewording of some examples under the project heading and funding categories. And there's also a stronger alignment with a climate emergency response plan. In addition to that, there's an included reference to the terms of reference that will form the community grants reference group. But other than that, there's no other changes. Any questions?
So Councillor, I'll take that while we've got Shannon with us. Are there any questions for the community grants section of this item? If not, no. Thank you, Shannon. Gihan, would you like to talk to us about the customer service charter, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I'll take it as having been read, but would like to make a few comments about the key changes that we have proposed. The most significant change, moving forward, the service standard are based on the mode of the contact rather than the type of the inquiry. So we believe with that approach, it will make the process simple and easy to manage, and then resulting reduced response time to queries that we receive. However, councillors, I would like to again mention that in some cases, the council will not be able to resolve the queries within these stipulated timelines, but in such cases, council will definitely keep the customers informed about the expected timeline. So we feel with these changes, it will make the process more efficient. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Gihan. Councillors, any questions for Gihan in regard to the customer service charter? No questions, thank you. So councillors, we do have a recommendation there that before you for item A and B. Can I get someone move the recommendation, please? Councillor Grigau, thank you. And seconded, Councillor Grout. Thank you very much, Councillor Grout. All those in favour? Thank you. So moved. Thank you. Thank you, Gihan. Thank you, Shannon. Councillors, item 16.4, Municipal Association of Victoria 2021-2022 rules review. Mr. CEO will talk us through this one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thank you to the councillors for workshopping with me our response to the rules review. In the report, you'll see that the State Council has recommended that there is a review of the MAV rules to reflect both the changes in the Local Government Act and to make sure that the purpose of the MAV is reinforced through those rules. So we've worked through the discussion paper as a group, and I've tried to capture your feedback in the submission, and so I've put that recommendation to you that we submit that submission now to MAV as part of their consultation process.
Thank you, Mr. CEO, and I think you certainly have captured our thoughts in regards to our submission. Councillors, there is a recommendation, but I'll just ask any questions to the CEO about the recommendation? If not, thank you. So I'll move that there is a recommendation, that council endorses the Borough of Queenscliff MAV rules review submission and sends it to the MAV for consideration. Can I get someone move that recommendation? Councillor Grigau, thank you. Seconded. The seconder for that one, Councillor Grupp. Thank you very much, Councillor Grupp. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. CEO. Councillors, item 17, authorisation of signing and sealing of documents. There are no reports to consider. Item 18, questions without notice. 18.1, questions without notice status update. There are no questions without notice outstanding. Item 18.2, questions without notice. Councillors, do we have any questions without notice?
Nope.
No. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, item 19, list of council meetings. They're there before you. The planning review meeting on the 9th of March if required. Next council meeting. Looks as though we might be back at the town hall. Is everything going to plan? And so it'd be nice to have everyone attending in person in the town hall. And that will be on the 23rd of March at 7 p.m. Councillors, item 20, closed session and meeting. The recommendation that in accordance with sections 66.1 and 66.2a of the Local Government Act 2020, the meeting be closed to members of the public for the consideration of the following confidential items. 20.1, the confirmation of 15th of December 2021 confidential council meeting minutes. Councillors, can I get someone to move that we close the session? Moved by Councillor Hewitt, second by Councillor Grigau. All those in favour? Thank you.